Yep.
And when they did those things with me, they were like, so you didn't sleep? No, I got thrown out of my bunk and I, hurt myself. And then you burnt yourself on the coffee maker? Yes, I did. But we, had contact with the doctor and she told me to do this. And then you were throwing up the whole afternoon. Yes. Has there been anything good today? And I was like, what? I want to change it for anything. This is life.
This is
so nothing bad happened today.
Ahoy shipmates, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Andy Schell. One of my episodes this week with Kristoffer Applequist, who Mia and I interviewed a long time ago in the early days of the show, back when he was kind of just getting into sailing. Kristoffer is a comedian and TV host in Sweden, pretty well known there. I had no idea who he was till we met. Since seen some of his stuff, been to one of his stand-up acts. He's a really nice guy, and we've become friends with him and his partner over the years. Anyway, Mia and I had him back on. He has a new podcast studio. He's a podcast host himself, so we got to go into Stockholm and meet him at his studio and talk about how he finally got to sail across the Atlantic with this reality TV show called Över Atlanten, which is a revelation in Sweden. There's like 6 seasons of it. I wish we had something like this in English. It's so cool. They basically do exactly what we do at 59 North, but they do it with celebrities. And they pile them on board the boat and sail across the Atlantic and film everything that happens. So it was a really fun conversation. Speaking of 59 North, what we've got coming up, Mia just sent a newsletter out last week about the boat show stuff. So we've got our fall boat show plan figured out. As I teased before, we're working with Brady and Blue from Cruisers Academy to do a half-day seminar and a party during the show. Those stuff is open and bookable now. So if you go to 59-north.com/boat show, you'll find the links to all the events we're doing in the fall in Annapolis. This is at the Annapolis Sailboat Show in October. We've also got other boat show stuff coming up. We're going to have Falcon in Sweden at the Öppet Varv boat show on Orust on the west coast. That's in August. You can go to Öppet Varv and find more info out about that, though I don't think anything's published yet, but we'll be there. And last but not least, we're having the open house on Eastbjorn and Falcon in Bergen. That's going to be in July. I forget exactly what date, but sometime mid-July. So if you happen to be in Norway or Scandinavia, come out to Bergen and check out both boats in the first place at the same time. With me, and August, and some other 59 North crew are going to be there as well. All right, without further ado, here we go. Talk to you next week, and until then, hold fast. On the Wind is presented by my own Harborburn Cannon Company. Brought to you by 4 of the founders of 59 North Sailing. Harborburn was born by an idea of a group of my friends and I who wanted to add some fun and figured if you own a boat, you need to have a cannon. Our origin goes back almost 20 years when one of our founders and friends, Tom Harrington, bought his first black powder signal cannon to mount on the bow of his Ericsson 35 Jubilee. There it sat for many thousands of miles aboard the boat, celebrating sunsets and making people smile up and down the East Coast from Maine to the Bahamas. To make a long story short, Jubilee sank at the dock in Florida during Hurricane Matthew in 2016. Tom was able to salvage the cannon, where it now resides on the bow of their Ericsson 38 Compass, and we decided to create a replica of Tom's original black powder cannon. So today, you can buy the Harrington Mark I at harborburn.com. We've got one on Falcon. August has one for Eastbjorn, and Emma, co-host of the podcast, has one for her boat, Seabird, up in Maine. And they are fantastic fun. So if you own a boat, you need a cannon. If you need a cannon, go to harborburn.com to pick up yours there. They are hand-stamped and custom-finished at Lee and Tom's Garage in Frederick, Maryland, and in Virginia, respectively, and shipped out to you with everything you need except for the black powder to fire off your cannon on your boat. Head on over to harborburn.com and see what all the fuss is about. On the Wind is supported by Forbes Horton Yachts. Forbes, one of the longest sponsors of the show, is back again. Huge thanks to them for sponsoring the show. If you need to buy a boat or you need to sell your boat, look no further than Forbes and his wife Jamie, who run a wonderful brokerage out of Annapolis, Maryland. If you're looking at a boat under another broker, Forbes can act as your buyer's broker, and I highly recommend doing that because there is no bias involved. Forbes helped us buy Eastbjorn. Forbes has been involved in all the boats I've bought or sold over the years, whether indirectly or directly as the listing or selling broker. And he's just a fun guy. He's also a sailor himself. They sailed to the Caribbean. Forbes has been on the podcast to tell this story. In fact, Forbes and Jamie sailed to the Caribbean on a refit Tartan 34 Classic. and knows what it's like to be a sailor and to do the real thing. Forbes continues to be a boater, has kids growing up on the Chesapeake, and you can't find a more honest person. The boat broker scene is not necessarily known for its honesty. Forbes is one of the good guys and an honest broker. If you want to see what he's listing currently or get in touch with him, go to ForbesYachts.com. That's FORBES, ForbesYachts.com. We're hopefully going to see Forbes in Annapolis at our seminar coming up, our workshop on offshore sailing in April this year. So if you want to meet him there in person, go to 59-north.com/events and come join us for our Offshore Essentials workshop in Annapolis, and Forbes will be there. Again, go to Forbes Yachts, FORBES, ForbesYachts.com. You're listening to On the Wind, my podcast about offshore sailing. I'm your host, Andy Schell. Comedian and sailor Kristoffer Applequist returns to the podcast to talk about his first transatlantic passage with the Swedish reality TV show Över Atlanten. Now in its 6th season, the show, which puts celebrities on board a big Swan with Whitbread skipper Gunnar Kranz for an Atlantic crossing, has become a huge hit. Kristoffer, Mia, and I talk about how his dream of ocean sailing has evolved since we first had him on the show, how he got picked for the TV show, what it was like hot-bunking with hockey legend Peter Forsberg, and lots more. Awesome, cool. Thanks for having us out to your studio. Kristoffer, do you remember the last time he was on the show? How long ago was it?
I think it must have been like 7 years.
Yeah,
you lived in Sunne still.
It has been almost 8 years ago.
Because you still had the house wherever that was.
Unfortunately, I had it until recently. I really tried hard to sell it without a huge loss, but I had to accept that loss.
Did you have? This is one thing we talked about in the car. Did you have Bongo, your boat, when we talked the first time?
No, I didn't. So just to put it in my context, for the listener, this is how I remember it. I got divorced, and it was not really a good breakup. And I, really hard tried to get, my own life going after being a family man for, the better part of my life. And I bought this small day sailor, a 16-foot, really, I had to renovate it. And I put so much money and new sails and everything into that small day sailor. And with that one, I had the adventure of my life. Till this day, the biggest adventure of my life. When me and my daughter, and she was like 14, 15 or something like that, we went out on the Lake Vänern, sailing towards Djura, I think is the name of the island, and we were sailing towards an open horizon for at least 2 hours, I think. And we were steering towards something we couldn't see, and the ball felt extraordinarily small, and we were like, terrified and shook up and excited at the same time. And we arrived quite late. And all the other big boats out on this island, they were like, did you sail here in that small, and we felt so cool and adventurous, and it was a real expedition feeling to it. So and then me and my wife got back together, and I was trying to get her out on the lake, and she didn't want to, and we were, and then it finally... it was a fact that we were getting divorced, and for real, as you do after 20 years, it's a big thing. It's a large, big, long process. But then I was decided I have to. This is really my dream. I want to learn how to do this for real, and I want to get out on big waters. And then I bought the most terrible boat ever built. It had this petrol engine. It was leaking, benzene. It was explosive from the day I got it, and I got this headache still when I think of it. But it was big. It was 29 foot, and I felt that this is the thing. And then you guys came into my ears. And I started to, get the education of and the dreams of the big waves and stuff like that. And then when I started to listen to your podcast, you already bought The Sparkman Stevens,
the Swan,
Isbjörn.
Yeah.
But since I started from episode 1, you had your old boat, and then you were always talking about it shall be, the hank on sails,
very simple,
so that's what I went for. No, I don't want that stuff. This is I want it to be simple.
I mean, I still think like that philosophically, but it's hard to do that on a 65-foot boat that we have now. I mean, we've come a long way since you started listening to the podcast as well. We just did a talk, Mia, you and me, at our local sailing club in Enköping on Sunday, and it was pretty neat to go back and reflect on some of that stuff. I mean, what did you think when you did the talk on our transatlantic on Arcturus, and that feels like a lifetime ago.
I mean, it was a lifetime ago. It was like 13 years ago now that we did a cross, getting closer, but yeah, it's so cool too to like have started small and not just starting by the 65-footer, but actually having our 35-footer that we crossed Atlantic on. I mean, that's pretty big, and seeing the videos from that, it's like it's a small boat
Hank
in a big
on sails.
ocean.
I mean, we took the steering wheel off and put a tiller on to make that simpler. We had a wind vane.
So it's cool to have that as a background, to not just start like big, but start like really feeling it in the beginning.
Yeah.
But when you visited me when I still lived in Sund and we were recording the podcast in my kitchen, as I remember it, I was about to buy Bongo.
I remember we talked about that at least. That's why I couldn't remember if you'd already had it or not.
No, I think I decided I wanted a Monsoon, an old, because
Harborburn. I mean, that's a perfect boat.
Yeah, it's not very fast. But now I really honestly think it's my last boat. Everything I do, everything I invest, everything I do, really feel like this is for me, and I cannot put too much effort or money into this one because it's for me. It's meant to last.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we have the same feeling, I think, about Spica, our little family boat now. We've got the boats for the business, which is one thing, but we bought Spica during COVID, and we said, like, hey, this is going to be our boat. Even if we don't use it, this is us. We're going to have it.
So what kind of boat is that?
It's a Norlin 34.
Ah, okay. Just that.
So I had
Peter Norlin,
yeah.
Right.
I had seen when we first came to sail in Sweden on Arcturus, I had seen like some real neat, pretty looking boats, and they all had this little N symbol on the bow. I knew nothing about Norlin, and then I was like, okay, that's a Norlin. Oh, that's also a Norlin. It's like, oh, that's a cool boat. That's also a Norlin. So during COVID, I just would go and block it. We were in the hospital.
Like everyone else.
Like everyone else. Go and block it and just did Norlin segelbåt.
But there is two Norlins, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, there is. But yes, right. So what's the name of the boat you said?
It's called Spica. But it's a Norlin 34.
34.
And they made... So anyway, found this on Blocket, but it was a Norlin 34 special. It was like... It had a different deck and cockpit because it was made specifically for Gotland Runt. And I saw... It was like a one-off. Same hull, but a different deck and cockpit. And I was like...
More offshore...
Kind of. Yeah, well, more racing-oriented for its time. Now, it was 1977, so it's not what you think of as racing now.
No.
But it just looked cooler. It looked unique. And I was like, Mia, we weren't planning on buying a boat. It was actually you who convinced me, like, no, we should do this. Like, let's just do it. Yeah. And then we did it. And that was our summer of 2020, like everyone else, out sailing around on Spica. But how have you found it sailing with small kids now? Do you take them out? I mean, your son's 2.5.
Yeah. Well, now I had to adjust my expectations quite a bit because I thought 30 nautical miles was a short day, but now I consider like 5 or 10.
That's a successful mission.
Yeah, and it was a bit frustrating, I have to say. But because when Maggie was born, because me and Isabel, we have sailed quite a lot, and it's not a problem. She tend to be more interested in what we're doing when we're getting there, and I'm not really interested of getting anywhere. I just want to sail.
Yeah.
So the longer the distance, the better. But when Maggie came aboard, it was really a lot about practical stuff, and we tend to see the boat as a problem. This is really shitty way to get to that island. There has to be a better way to get to that island.
What did you learn when you asked someone?
It was funny because we had Axel when he was 2. We had him on the boat, and he was like, when we were on the way, he was screaming or sleeping.
Yeah.
So we just decided, let's do short sail so he can sleep when we sail. And then I asked on Instagram, just, hey, anyone have any tip when you have a 2-year-old? They're like, well, we didn't. We sailed when they were 1 and we sailed when they were 3, but we skipped the 2-year-old. I was like, oh, that's a good way to do it.
But Frasse, he turned 2 last summer, and he's the least problem. He's just walking around, and he's well balanced, and he likes to put the engine on and turn it off, and do a knot here and there.
I guess it's just individual dependent, I guess.
Yeah, and also if you're, how you feel about it yourself, because I'm not easily stressed in that situation. In every other situation, I'm very easily stressed, but I don't. Yeah, I just think it's fun.
Huh? What you mean stressed about the kids? About
them falling or? I mean, I have one. Level of stress if they're on deck. But if they're downstairs and, I'm not very scared of them like losing a piece of puzzle down to the bilge or something like that. So, no, if you do it on their terms, so to speak, and plan ahead.
Yeah.
It's a matter of snacks, I think.
Matter of snacks. Yeah, that's true. It's cool though. I mean, for us, Axel's now, he turned 4 in March, and you're finally now able to do stuff with him beyond just sailing. I took him to the gym with me. That I joined a CrossFit gym, and like he can just putter around and hang out at the gym. And like actually, you can actually take him out in public and not have to feel super stressed about it. I think, and that like didn't happen last year. So that's like a nice sort of progression. But
I got 4 kids, and some of them are really old, and my experience is the more you focus on doing everyday stuff and try to make them nice and nice for the kids, go shopping and have a really good big time slot for the shopping, so they may stop and
can participate.
Yeah. And you have the time to listen. If put more energy into that, put less energy into steering towards, on Sunday we're going to do this really fun, expensive shit together with all the other families of Stockholm. That is exhausting, and you only get disappointed. But if you leave a large time slot for doing boring stuff like laundry, that's where where life quality lives, I think. And how does a bongo fit into that? Well, maybe let's go down to the harbor and not polish the boat. Just go there and watch the dirty boat, and then we're gonna launch it dirty. But just be there, and like we were talking about before we started recording, to take the kids to work is a very good idea if you don't work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, is that hard for you to accept? Has that been hard for you to accept?
It has. When I thought the bar was, as low as it could get, somebody's pointing out stuff. But do you really have to, polish that thing, or, sand that down, or change that? And the answer is almost always no, because it's a glass fiber boat, and,
It might not look great, but it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
All right. So the real reason, not the real reason, is we haven't talked to you in a while, but I saw an Instagram post where you were standing on the dock in the Canaries, I think, with a whole bunch of people, and it dawned on me, on you actually, I think you're like, oh my God, he's on Över Atlanten, on like, it's going to spell in the next one.
No, but the thing is, I saw that post when I was in Canary Island myself. I had sailed from Portugal to Canaries,
right.
And I think you had left a few days before we got there. So like we were just almost crossed paths. That would have been really cool to run into each other in Canary Island of all places.
But it was like 3 things happened when I saw that. I was like, oh man, this is so cool. I'm so happy for you, because I knew you had this as a bucket list thing, just crossing an ocean. And then I was like, had all these questions like, okay, how did he get on the show? Because it's a TV show. I'm going to ask you to explain what it is for a second, in a second. But then I had Gunnar on before as well. And I think Mia said that Peter Forsberg was also in the crew with you. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I actually texted you that instant. I'm sure you were at sea when I sent it. But I was like, I have to get him back on the podcast to talk about this. So let's start with that. What you did this transatlantic as part of a TV show in Sweden called Över Atlanten. Give me just this quick pitch on what is the concept.
First of all, I had my own TV show with my own name on it in the public service, Sveriges Television, like it's the Swedish you know what I'm trying
equivalent
to say. Thank you. Of John Oliver's, what's the...
Yeah, the news show. Last week tonight.
Yeah. Yes. Something similar, but in Swedish, and I was really running that show, and I was working long hours to get my 30 minutes every Friday night, and it wasn't live, but live on tape. So we recorded it and edited it for an hour, then we aired it, and then a short weekend, and then on it again. And I loved it, and I was at my prime. I finally found myself in a spot where I was competent and, getting the recognition I wanted and stuff like that. So, but it stopped me from doing all these reality stuff. And you want to go on with this, you want to participate in this, and you want to be, a guest in this show, and public service in Sweden is really not into letting their talents participate in other stuff, which is so stupid because it's good.
It's good marknadsföring.
Yeah, but so one of the questions I had to say no to every single year was Över Atlanten.
That I was going to be like, okay, so one of my questions was, how come it took you this long to get on the show? Because I know how much you like sailing.
That's why.
Interesting.
I didn't get to.
Okay. So what is Över Atlanten? Explain the concept.
So it's a reality show where famous people, 6 of them, together with 3 professional kind of sailors, experienced at least, and one of them is Gunnar Kranz, he's been sailing around the world.
I think he's
for
done
a living
4 Volvo Whitbread races or something. He was on the pod. I'm going to have him on again as well, talk about this from his perspective. But he was on the show during COVID, I think.
He did a few Whitbreads, among others with Mange Olsson, and he sailed with Skip Novak, and he's a legend. And in Sweden, he's the biggest sailor, one of the 3 biggest sailors we've had. Magnus,
who's the third?
Roger Nilsson.
Roger Nilsson.
So he's Mr. Ocean sailing in our world, and this show is simply 6 beginners, well known for the audience, is going with him over the Atlantic from the Canary Islands to the Caribbean, and it takes exactly 18 days. Because of flight tickets and hotel bookings.
So it has to take 18 days.
It's even more scheduled than we have.
Yeah, wow.
I guess you're in that world too, where you have to say we don't know, but then you have one eye on the watch all the time.
We have a little bit more margin, I think, but it depends. But I mean, when we first saw this was the thing, we're like, oh my gosh, this is like the coolest thing ever. And it's also like when we tell Swedes what we do for a living. Because everyone's seen the show. Like, everyone knows Över Atlanten. And it's like, well, we do that, but without the famous people.
Right. So, well, so that's basically it. The boat, it's been a different boat, but now it is... What's his name? Herman Frers.
Yeah.
German. It spells with an G, though.
It looks like German Frers, but he's from Argentina, so it's Herman Frers.
Herman Frers, yeah. Swan, 67, something like that. I think it's a 70-footer now because they changed the tail
modified
somehow. They modified the tail, the transom, so it looks like a Sparkman Stevens transom. I think looks a bit more classic.
Cool.
It was turned the wrong way.
Yeah,
when Herman.
So our Ice Bear, our Swan 59, was a Herman Frers design.
Oh, right.
We sold that and did the Falcon project, which is a FAR design. But anyway,
all right.
Herman Frers has also been on the podcast.
Oh, he has. Oh, he's alive and kicking.
Yeah.
But how old is he?
He's probably at least in his 70s, if not older. He was on several years ago, but his son is now a pretty well-known yacht designer as well. Yeah.
Cool. Well, so you get aboard, you get a short, brief, walk through the boat, and then you're off. And 18 days later, you're full of experience and new wisdom.
Full of experience. So, how hard was it for you to say no those first few times? Were you asked to be on the first season?
I think I've been asked every season,
because they must know that you're a sailor, right? I mean,
yes, and I've been very. I was very clear. I want nothing else. But I got a newborn child at home. It's COVID, and my wife has to, we don't, I have to vabba a lot. I have to stay home with sick children and stuff like that. But mostly I work in public service, and they won't permit it.
Yeah.
Admit it.
Whose idea was the show? Who came up with the concept?
I don't know, but I know that the first time I met you, I tried to pitch this concept to a lot of channels, and they said, well, okay, episode 1, if they're like 20 minutes long, we get, but then it's just the same, and where to hide the crew and stuff like that. And that was really a challenge, because a 70-foot boat is big, in my opinion, but you put
12 people on it, it shrinks.
So how many people? It's 6 guests plus the skipper. That's 7.
So 4 in each team, or what do you say?
Watch.
Yeah, 4 in each watch. Then Gura, and then 2 photographers, 1 producer, and 1 sound guy. So that's 6. No, it's
4 production staff.
4, 6, 13.
Wow.
I guess.
Yeah, we usually sail with 11 at the most on Falcon, so that's even two additional people into that.
And our boat is set up for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I was hot bunking with the great Peter Forsberg from Colorado. So that bunk was never dry, not one single second.
So what was the feeling like for you that you finally got asked and could say yes, and how excited were you?
When we decided that we should prepare our family for me being gone for 1 month, was a year prior to when we left, because that was a part of the decision when I left my show on SVT.
So you by choice left your show?
Sure, but it had partly to do with me being exhausted, and I didn't feel I wasn't able to charge my battery. For each season, I lost some. When batteries are getting old, I felt my batteries are getting old. I need more and more and more and more to get them charged, and it has to do with me. I've never done anything that long in my life at all. I've never been that persistent trying to be better at something. I did 7 seasons in a row. Wow. And it was a large work, and then finally I just felt I can't do any better than this. I'm really good at it, and I'm really proud. And we had the ambassador in Ankara called to the foreign minister of Turkey to get lectured about things that I said in television regarding the NATO process and stuff like that. And I was really stirring up some shit, and I was working like hell. And when I came home, when I was supposed to sleep, I had this idea, well, if I cut this part of the show and post it on Instagram and targeted it on that specific part of Iraq where all the Kurds live, they might find it and stuff like that. And I felt like a genius, and I kind of think I was a genius and really, really good at it, but I was getting more and more tired, and my kids were more and more...
turn it off.
No, I couldn't. Yeah. I couldn't turn it off, and I felt this is not balance in life. I have to, maybe if I call it a day now, I can still get away with my family and with great memories. that's like 50% of it. 50% of it was, and now I'm gonna be able to say yes.
Okay, wow.
Because I felt that me preparing my old Hallberg Rassi with the family who think it's far to sail to Gotland, it's never going to happen. I'm too much of a family man. I'm not going to be able to push this through. So this is my chance.
This is your chance, yeah.
So it's work. It's, well, the salary is good and I have to be gone for a few weeks, but then we have, then we can take the summer off.
That was a question I wasn't sure if I'd be able to ask you. Did they pay you to do the show?
Yes, they did.
Are you talent on the show, basically? Even
yes.
though you guys are all celebrities.
Well, yes, because I think a few of us, I think almost all of us would have done it anyway. But then it would have been very hard to sell to my family. But as a stand-up comedian, you don't have that much work in January.
Yeah.
So if it would have been in November, then the alternative cost would have been really high because that's when the large part of my income is.
So you're still doing
earned.
stand-up shows and stuff like that?
I do.
Yeah, cool.
But no, getting paid too, and then also not have to take on the challenge of Baltics. Northern Sea. Vad heter det? Nordsjön.
To start from Sweden and
to start from Sweden and hassle my way down to the Canary Islands. Then the vacation is over, and my wife is already divorcing me. And then I didn't start the great voyage over. So be able to live in a nice hotel and then go to the dock and take that ocean. That's what you're selling. I know that.
Yeah, totally.
But
it's different though. We don't pay our crew to come; they pay us. We got that. You guys had the right equation on your end there. So what? I mean, you've had? I imagine anyway that you've thought about this for so long. Had such high expectations, and now you're doing this. But so you're on TV. Were you able to experience it in the way you've always dreamed of, and did it meet your expectations?
Yes, by far.
Okay, how so?
Because I don't know. I really didn't think it was possible for me to be that satisfied. But I think part of it was that it was quite bad weather. So and the waves were much higher than the limit we've been talking about. We've been talking about because there is this trade-off between too little wind and too much wind, and on this particular boat there were also crew climbing and putting GoPros and holding expensive stuff, and so it's a lot of balancing for the poor skipper. And that tends to be boring. But since the weather pushed us a bit and the waves get higher, and you have, it was a dopamine blast from start to end, I think, without any broken water makers or without any broken sails, just, tense and...
Well, that's the question. Like, how do you create... I mean, this is the other thing. How do you create a TV show around this when that particular transatlantic leg should be reasonably boring because it's nice weather and it's a trade wind route and all the rest? I mean, it would have been extremely boring had they come and filmed. I did the Cape Verde to Barbados this year, and it was 11 days without a single drop of rain, no squalls. I mean, it was as boring as it gets in the best way possible for me being the skipper. Nothing happened.
And for the experience for the people, but maybe not for the drama.
But yeah, you could have. There was no TV show there. I mean,
no, but here and there you get a squall.
Yeah.
Call that a storm. Yeah. And you get 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about storms. We had Kuling.
Gale.
What's that?
Gale.
Gale for like
30,
25.
Kuling's maybe a little less than a gale.
15,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's close to a near gale. Yeah.
So we had, and on a beam we had 25 knots very many days in a row, which was perfect.
Yeah.
But we talked about it as storm. From time to time. Not me, but the crew trying to stir up some.
But I mean, how many? Like you said, I mean, you kind of knew what to expect as a sailor. But like Peter Forsberg, because my American audience will know him. He was a legendary hockey player in the U.S. So did he have any concept of what, like, and how do you talk somebody
Not at
like
all.
him into doing this? Like, what was in it for him? As like, for you, obviously, you want to do a trip like this, but for him, like, why does he want to do this?
No, but everything you put on your bucket list isn't really, really thought through, or it's just, it's a cool thing to. I didn't want it done. I wanted to do it. It's a difference between wanting to learn how to be a doctor or just want to be a doctor already, through school. But I wanted to sail. I don't. I enjoyed every single moment, every single maneuver. When I was asleep or supposed to be asleep, and I heard that they were changing sail or something like that.
FOMO.
I really. They were letterboxing a sail, and I've heard of that maneuver, and I've never seen it and never participated. They spiked it, and it was. FOMO was. It wasn't hard to sail at all, but it was hard to try to stay in the bunk for those 4 hours, and they really had to tell me from time to time. So your job is to rest now. Okay. So,
I know exactly what you mean. So what did you learn?
Did
go
you
ahead,
get seasick?
Sure, I did. really, because that had to do, I think, mostly because the way I've sailed with my boat, I've sailed a lot, many days and many miles as well, but never ever, just on the same angle from the ability, the opportunity to really exploring the relation between true wind angle and apparent wind angle, true boat speed, and all those meters on the display that I've never had the time to look at. Yep. Now I had hours. Okay, so that's when I open it up. So that's why the twist. We had those discussions hour after hour, day after day, week after week. It was, it was the biggest. That was a blast to have all that knowledge in that sittplan. What do you call it?
In the cockpit.
The cockpit.
You have and you have the time and space to really dive deep on stuff.
But one effect was me staring at that telly.
Yeah.
And then
that's what got you seasick.
Yeah. I was looking too much on the
Was
TV.
everyone seasick?
Not everyone, but almost. But I was only motion sick. I threw up, and then I ate, and then I was happy again.
And then you were fine.
But a few of my friends were really, seasick in that terrible sense that they were incapacitated, and then they didn't want to come up, and they didn't want to eat or something like that. I had, when we did those syncs, interviews where they film something, they film you almost dropping something or hurting yourself or something like that, then they have to interview you afterwards so they can take that voice over and put over those dramatic pictures. They, that's part of the format.
Yep.
And when they did those things with me, they were like, "So you didn't sleep?" "No, I got thrown out of my bunk and I, hurt myself." "And then you burnt yourself on the coffee maker?" "Yes, I did." But we, had contact with the doctor and she told me to do this. "And then you were throwing up the whole afternoon." "Yes." "Has there been anything good today?" And I was like, "What? It's I wouldn't change it for anything. This is life.
This is all good."
So nothing bad happened today.
Wow. Oh, that's cool. Did anything? So obviously they're being a TV show. Some of the drama they're manufacturing, like you said. But was there any sort of real drama on the trip that was worth commenting on?
No, not really. Not really. But one night I woke up and I was really. I slept under the spray hood of there's two cockpits.
Yep.
One, the actual cockpit, and then the center cockpit, which is dining room.
It was just like Ice Bear, probably. Yeah.
But they opened it up. The aft one is by design closed, I think. But now it's a door down to the owner's cabin. So that's where the crew stays, and so you're not allowed to pass through there. You have to go, on deck to get back there. So that's where you work, and then you can, if you're off watch, then you can spend time in that, social cockpit, center cockpit, and it was a bit rough sea, so I took my off watch there, and I slept with my face towards the window on port side. I slept there, and I've been sleeping for like an hour, and then I woke up and I didn't know why. But then there was this tanker, and the first boat we saw, in 12 days, something like that, and it felt really close. It was filled, the whole, my window was filled with the tanker.
Yeah.
And I shouted, fuck, vad i helvete, vad fan säger ni, vad i helvete säger ni? Du vet, like I was the one discovering it, but what woke me up was the discussion, why is their AIS turned off and why don't they answer? And we had to, in order to, change path, we had to release the preventer, and it was a lot of work. That was the boring stuff. A lot of work to sail that big boat. Really many maneuvers.
It's a lot of work to sail a big boat. I mean, on the other hand, you going back to, have you sailed Bongo yet since you've been on the big boat?
No,
because
it was now
feel
in January.
So much easier now. Like, it's going to be such a relief to come back to Bongo. We're used to sailing Falcon, which is a 65-footer, and come back to Spica, and everything's like tiny. It's like, oh wow, how did I ever complain about this before?
But and that's one of the things that I was a bit disappointed. It was a bit disappointing. I felt so weak because at home I feel mentally weak, easily stressed out, and nervous and anxious and stuff like that, but physically strong. I never complain about carrying all my kids on the shoulders or doing an extra lap, carrying stuff. I really I feel strong, but mentally weak. On that journey, it was the total opposite. I felt mentally totally prepared, and I wasn't upset about anything, but everything was so heavy to get the main up, even with just tailing, an electric winch.
Yeah.
I felt really weak.
It's serious stuff. Did you guys fly spinnakers? You said you talked about a letterbox.
No, that was the Jenniker going down.
Okay, but still, that's a big sail on a boat like that.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. We had a code 0 as well, but we didn't get to use it because we ran out of time. But Gura, he's a fun guy. He wants more. It's like, if we do like this instead of wait, and everybody was asking, so what do we have to do that? Will we still get there? Yes, but so why shall we bother to, dig in and get that big sack out and try to turn it around in this weather and water everywhere, and his eyes, and he's in his 70s and he's seen it all and been everywhere, and he could have been talking about Southern Ocean and serving us stories, but instead he was adjusting and trimming and
Well, that's like, I'll come back to him, but that's like what we were saying the other night when, tell the story of on your trip, one of the crew thought you were faking your enthusiasm.
Yeah, like when we would, because we do trips all the time, and you're coming out of the companionway and you have like a full sky of stars. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
And like, you're telling the crew like, man, this is so cool. And then one of the crew that was with us on the last crossing, she was like, yeah, they probably just say that. They say that all the time just to make us feel like this is cool. And then after like day 5, she's like, I think they actually mean it.
Yeah.
They can't fake it. Like, it's just so exciting. And I think same thing with Gura. Like, he doesn't have to do that, but you can't help yourself.
No, exactly. I know exactly how he feels because you can't help it. You can't help it. If you truly love that, you can't fake it. Can't help it, and you can't fake it.
Now, but it's direct contact. What do you say? It's like you're connected to the creation. I mean, let's leave God out of it, but
it's a very spiritual experience. I agree.
It is, and sailing to the center of the rainbow. So what am I aiming at? Thank you. I take the rudder. What do I aim at? Sail in the middle of the rainbow, under that arch. It's very close to religious, spiritual, I guess, and yeah, it's. I came home different. I really have to say, and I came home extraordinarily eager to get on a similar boat on a similar journey very soon.
Well, I said we have an extra spot on Falcon, so anytime you just say the word.
If I didn't have 2 kids and a wife,
and we can't pay you.
You might, yeah. You're not getting paid to come with us, but you won't be on TV either.
No, but that was, you were asking about content, creating content, and if nothing happens, and so. But my work that's my profession, is to create content out of air, saying stuff. Pointing at stuff, saying stuff. That's content. That's what I'm getting paid for.
Yeah.
So I think they were wise to bring me, because I don't have to be afraid of wind, or they filmed me a few times when I was throwing up. That gets old as well. Maybe episode 1 and 2 can be fueled on my vomits, but then something has to happen, and just reflecting the experience. And I think I put a lot of effort in trying to tell people why this is extraordinarily important. If you don't find that feeling that I got from being offshore, fine. But find your place in nature, where you're getting contact on that level, because you won't be able to live without it while you've experienced it once. And I did that already on that small boat 15 years ago with my daughter.
Yeah.
It's exact the same feeling. Then it lasted for maybe 5 hours, and now for 2.5 weeks.
On the content side, it's interesting too, because what we talk about, and I'm going to ask you this, you can mention how Gunnar was with this as well, but like, even though we're not on television, we're being the skipper and the mate and leading the thing, but it's as much, which is why it makes our job so difficult, it's as much a technical role, as in like technically running the boat, but you're also performing for the people. In your case, you guys are performing for the cameras, but we're performing for the customers that paid us to be there, to be at our very best, and take it a level above just the technical thing, but actually make it almost a performance. So in that sense, like, you're on camera or whatever, that, okay, if I just go a little deeper in this interview, whatever, it's going to be that much better. And I guess that comes naturally to you. I guess the question I have is, where is the line between where do you as the person end and you as the performer begin, and how much of that is blurred?
Well, I said one thing in a very private conversation in the middle of the night, and I forgot that we were being recorded all the time by cameras mounted in the cockpit while the crew was asleep, and I asked them to look for that one sentence. I don't want to say that in front of folks. It was private, but that was one sentence for the whole trip. I guess in my profession, I tend to know these borders very well. I don't do stuff, I don't say stuff that I don't want anybody to record and play. So I guess I'm professional. That's the answer. That's my job too.
Yeah.
So, and then of course I'm not very comfy. They're filming me while I'm not looking good. I don't feel very attractive. You get a lot of help when you're on TV. You get makeup and stylists and angles, and you have a lot of what do you say? You try to look your best.
Yeah.
But the name of the game was to just participate with all my heart, and then you don't have time for that much clear eyes or please film me from above. So I guess you see a lot of my a lot of not very flattering images of me.
But that's the nature of a reality show, right?
Yeah, sure.
Isn't that the point?
So I don't have to look at it. I'm the only one who cares, I guess. So, but what I was creating content or being, as good as at the top of my game regarding my work, 5% of the energy. Trying to deliver and keep the spirit up for the crew, both for the whole crew, because I really felt it was a crew of 13. And I felt equally invested in sailing the boat because everyone was needed. It wasn't celebrities trying to sail, but
riding along.
We all hands were needed from time to time, and so trying while sleep deprived and a bit motion sick. Trying to put, scones or popcorns or a new cleaned kitchen or something to the other watch. That was I had to really put 80% of my energy into that effort and trying to keep the spirits up.
How was Gunnar in that sense? Because he's like the leader, and he's obviously a big part. He's, I guess, the only one that's on every season of Över Atlanten. So how is he as a performer in that sense, or is he just such a good leader that he doesn't have to perform?
Yeah, I don't think he performs at all.
You just think he's being him?
Yeah, yes, I think so. He's actually been a bit unprofessional, not in that sense, and he's not swearing or something like that or losing his temper, not at all. He's a very good leader, I think, and I feel so safe around him, both offshore and on land. But he showed a lot of not understanding the process of filming, because a lot of the other persons on board has a lot more experience of that. So we were like, now we have it, can we change to the bigger picture so that the crew can also go down and eat, because their food is waiting for them and stuff like that. And he was so in the moment, and I'm just gonna tell this as well, you don't have to, we got it. It's the rest of us is editing the episode, and we're trying to get that over and done with so we can go on with the dishes and sail the boat. And
interesting.
So it's kind of, I hope you don't get offended, watcher of the show, but it's a little bit of you paying for the experience by making the show. So let's make the show a great show. But now we're done for today, and now it's just 3 hours of, exploring.
Now you can just be yourselves in that sense. Well, so on the production side, like, one of the toughest things is always sound. How do they do, like, how do they actually film it? How do they, you said there were 4 producers. So what is that process like? Where are the cameras? Are you flying drones? Is everyone mic'd up all the time?
Yes, and you have the responsibility for your own lav mic. So you have this Mygga lav mic in your clothes, maybe on the. It's somewhere. You put it somewhere. You do it yourself.
So that's part of you. When you get dressed to come up on deck, you're setting up your lav mic.
Life jacket on, lav mic on. Yeah.
So many nights I slept with it, and you go to the sound engineer and change your batteries. That's the first, before brushing your teeth. And even if you're just going to the toilet, put it on, because when you're going to the head, you might meet someone, and an interesting discussion about fly fishing, foppas face or something like that comes, and then they don't have it, because that's the only way to get the sound in. There is no boom guy with a mic.
Yep.
So you have to be responsible to be bugged all the time, 24 hours, and so he is actually hearing everything.
Does that change your behavior?
For a while, but you tend to forget, yes. So that's one thing. Then there are these GoPros, and as you said, drones, they are incredibly talented in. They didn't lose a single drone, and it was extraordinary.
How many
impressive.
did they bring?
A few.
What were they using? Do you know? What models they were using?
No, I don't know.
Okay, I'd be curious about that.
So if you say the names of...
Well, they have the DJI, the Mavic one is the newer little one. Then they have a Phantom. They have the Inspire, which is like a bit... Were they big or small?
No, quite small.
Okay, it was probably a Mavic then, I guess.
I don't know.
Because that's the latest lens tech and stuff.
But it made you think about retrieving a person retrieving a drone, it's maneuvered by a really professional maneuvering guy, and it went like, from side to side, many meters. It was, and then the boat's motion.
It's three-dimensional motion, yeah,
right.
Side to side, up and down. It's
so retrieving someone.
Did you stop the boat to get the drone, or would the boat keep sailing?
No, I can't remember. We managed to stop the boat once.
Yeah.
Was a never-ending, ongoing motion.
So you've got the cameras placed around the boat. You're all mic'd up. Is there also like guys with handheld cameras wandering around?
Two of them.
Okay.
And they were during daytime they were filming all the time, and then they took every other night, I think. So one night on, one night off.
Presumably those guys are not involved at all with sailing the boat.
No.
Yeah.
Did they get seasick?
Weren't.
Because I can see that's if you haven't been on a boat before,
Yeah.
that's a kind of intense, focused job where you could get seasick.
Yes, and they did, and they didn't complain. They were just working. They didn't talk about it. They ate their food. They it was a real Sherpa insight for me. Oh my God! And I was talking to Safin, one of is an extraordinary talented photographer, and it was his first trip on a sailboat ever. The first time. Then again, he's been filming war he's a Kurd. He used to live in Iraq. It was on his. He was like, motion sickness. Yeah, that's okay. I have to think about this before I say yes the next time. It didn't stop him from really stretching out, and he was, in the bow mounting stuff, and he was, his extraordinary expensive drone stuff. He in this quite harsh conditions, he just pushed through. It was really inspiring. He didn't put a lot of effort in reflecting on what in his childhood made him want to film stuff. I felt a bit dirty actually around those guys who were so oriented on the.
I wonder how, do you know how did they select the people to do the filming? Because did those guys want to be part of this project? I mean.
Yeah, but it's a quite sweet gig. I mean, those are adventurous guys as well. They tend to be action from that. Is
it the same film crew each year?
The sound guy is the only one who has been on every season. Gula hasn't, because one season it was another guy.
What is the? Who runs the production? What is it? Is it TV4 or what? Who?
No, it's. Kanal 5, va? Alltså well, Alla mot alla, who can be
I don't know.
Yeah, but it's not a channel, it's part of my smart TV, which is a lot smarter than me, so I don't know the name. I'm just, I've learned how to browse to that. Fan heter det då? Det heter Discovery Plus.
Discovery Plus, okay. Yeah.
So Channel 5 is part of Discovery Plus.
All right, the big question: What did you learn? What did you learn? You've had this idea of what this was going to be like your whole life, and what were your takeaways from it? Not forget the TV side of it, just from the sailing experience.
I got a lot of. I got a lot of. I felt like it's impossible to stop these sails from banging or flopping, or what do you call it, even though it's quite good wind. But the waves were old and going the other direction, and I felt so frustrated, and I felt really like a bad sailor. My family is asking, so why aren't we going faster? Why is it so inconvenient? Why is it not more comfortable when it's actually quite windy outside? And I've always answered, because I don't know. I'm not competent. I'm above my incompetent level, or what do you say? So I've taken water over my head. But I found I got a bit of more confidence. I got vad fan ska man säga? I learned how much I know. And it was a quite good feeling, and it
That's cool.
Encouraged me to learn more. So like, no, in those conditions, no, it's hard. No, you have to live with this. Okay, so that's good.
Because I guess you haven't. I mean, now having spent time sailing with a professional like Gunnar, you've always been trying to. I'm assuming you've kind of just learned on your own as you've gone, and now you had someone there to sort of confirm that you actually do know what you're doing. I mean, you used to say when you did your Yachtmaster. Yeah. That you're like, oh wow, actually Andy does know what he's talking about because you only ever sail with me, and then you did formal education, and it's like, oh yeah. It's
like, oh, man, you're actually saying the same thing. Okay, you actually, and that's a nice thing to get confirmed that I know things. Yeah. I actually understand what they're talking about.
And one of the greatest compliments I ever had was I was complaining. I had a few boring days behind the wheel, and it was and the bimini was a bit. You know, I'm so tall, so I couldn't see anything. So I had to dodge under that, and but it was the sun was hard on me, and I'm a ginger, so I didn't like it up there. And everybody else was sent on spectacular and adventurous missions, and we're going to perform this special maneuver, and I want you to be on deck and. At exactly the right time, and I was stuck behind the wheel all the time. And then I said to Gunnar, "You don't trust me to do stuff? Am I too weak? Am I too old?" And then he said, "I just like you at the wheel." And it took me 4 days to understand that. I'm
that's
trusted with.
Yes,
with
that's a huge compliment. I mean, I can relate to that completely because if you can't trust the person at the helm. Then you have to be at the helm and you can't direct the maneuver. So that's a very big compliment.
So I found out that I've learned that, putting all the attention to my quite simple task of just, keeping the course or holding the rope or, watching that meter or whatever. That was something I brought with me because so that was fun. But I learned a lot about trimming sails. I learned a lot about. I finally understood why there is. I've tend to mix. I got mixed up in angles and light or heavy wind. So, for example, code 0 versus. Vad fan heter det? Janakers or something like. We've been discussing hour after hour, but in those conditions, why do you do? Okay. So I get a better understanding of which sails to use when and stuff like that.
Is this ocean sailing? Is it out of your system now, or is it even worse that you want to do it again?
You know what? I don't think it's that much about ocean sailing. I want to cross oceans for sure. I really want to do that again. I think there is a real conflict, a real trade-off with family, and in your lifestyle you found that balance. But in my lifestyle, you have to also put in the equation that I'm on tour or working nights, working weekends. Everything is about me when I'm doing this show for those months. Even though I'm sick, even though the kids are sick, I still have to go to work and stuff like that. And in that equation of a year, it's a lot of weight to put on the family to add another month of me, for fulfilling myself.
Yep.
If I'm getting well paid, that's one thing. But if I'm not, like going with you on a voyage, it's harder. Yeah, it's harder
decision. Yeah, sure.
But I am very decisive. Regarding this goal, getting more feeling of expedition into my life, and that's the thing. I want it to be an expedition. It might take just a weekend, but to point out an island and make the plans and
to have a purpose behind it, behind your sailing,
rather than caravanning in the archipelago of Stockholm and mooring at expensive spots and buying ice cream. I don't want to do that. I actually do not want to do that one single day. I might do it for my for the sake of my family,
sure.
But that's not me.
Yeah.
But I can easily find the feeling of adventurous expedition by sailing to Åland or a specific island outside.
Have you sailed to
Åland
Åland before?
No, I never did.
That's a good mission. Sail out and around Åland and back again.
But the cool thing, I mean, even like you said in the archipelago, you can make a mission. It doesn't have to be far. It
No.
can just be the mission to get to this specific place and launch a dinghy and play around or jump ashore. Yeah. It's a good place to explore.
Do you have anything we haven't asked, Mia? Because you've seen more of Atlanten than me.
I actually haven't seen much of it.
Is there anything we're not asking that you want to ask?
you're gonna get annoyed when you watch the show. You're gonna get a bit annoyed.
Why am I gonna get annoyed?
Because of that, producer dilemma of trying to make action and drama out of thin air.
Yeah, but I actually think it's really cool how
cool.
they managed to make, what is it now, 5 seasons?
More,
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, it must be popular if they keep doing it.
And I think it's really cool because it like brings back to what we do that is really hard to explain into people's like, oh yeah, okay, I can understand what you're doing. So I think it's actually really cool and how they can make ocean sailing so exciting to the general public that they decide they're gonna go with more than 5-6 seasons to do it. So I actually think it's, of course they have to make drama, of course they have to make TV, but when we watched that first season, I thought it was actually pretty accurate.
I mean that's the thing. It is like, okay, this actually is it is real. Yes, of course they add a little bit of drama here and there, but you're still actually sailing across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
But the most drama came out of bad technique, like water maker breaking.
That's what somebody asked us in the club the other day.
Yeah.
We had our club talk the other day, and someone said, how come the water maker on Över Atlanten is breaking all the time? And I was like, I don't know. She's like, you guys don't seem to have problems like that. I was like, well, maybe it's TV, man. I don't know.
No, they're not cheating. They don't. No, they're not turning it off. By purpose.
It actually was just.
But they're renting. But they have to leave. They have to leave dock at a specific date in order to get everything. And then the boat arrives too late, and it's been, you can't put the effort in as if it was your own boat or
whose
your
boat
own.
is it?
Now, for this boat we're talking about now, this Herman Freir's Swan boat, that's actually Gurra's.
That's what somebody said. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the third season with a boat that is being more and more well taken care of for every season. Me myself, I cleaned the bilge under in the kitchen for the first time for like 15 years. I found so many disgusting things there, and it was a blast.
Yeah.
In high waves and together with Gurra as well. On our free time, we were like, what's that smell? We took one lid off, and then 2 hours later we were cleaning the whole thing. It was so much fun.
That's cool.
So that boat is taken care of, and it undergoes service in a lot of, it's very old. And I found this brass old through hull Blake thing down there. Did you know about this one? No, I didn't. He said, and it had stuck, so we started to read the instructions how to disassemble it and polish the valve with some and I love that. I really do love that, and Gurra does too. So I think he won't do another season without a boat that he's been taking care of himself.
Yeah, that makes sense, because that's what my impression was. The first couple seasons they had rented boats, and it's like I can't imagine trying to do that on someone else's boat that you don't know anything about. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we can wrap this up. Is there anything you want to say that I haven't asked you?
No.
Cool. Well, thanks for having us to your studio. This is super cool. And I've been staring at this old-timey TV that you've modified and watching this heavy weather sailing video on repeat in the background. So that's been a nice distraction. But cool. And when will your season air?
Our season, I guess late August, maybe early September.
Okay.
And it's I'm a bit nervous, but
what are you nervous about?
About me doing stuff I didn't really realize they were filming, but it's going to be fun to watch, and I hope I get some of that feeling back.
Talking about drama, though, that's exactly the point, right? So everyone knows who you guys all are, so they get to see a side of you that you're not going to show on the Nyheter.
Sure, but the new side of me they're gonna see is me being happy while I'm throwing up.
Awesome, great place to wrap it up.
That.
Thanks for having us, Kristoffer.
Thank you.
Tack.
Thanks again to the Harborburn Cannon Company for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. If you've got a boat, you need a cannon. If you need a cannon, go to harborburn.com to pick out yours now. Thanks also to Forbes Yachts for sponsoring this show. Go to Forbes Yachts, that's Forbes, ForbesYachts.com to get in touch to buy or sell your dream boat. And tell Forbes that Andy from 59 North said hello. On the Wind is the podcast about sailing, created by 59 Degrees North and hosted by me, Andy Schell, and also by August Sandberg, Emma Garshagen, and occasionally Ben Doer. The show is mixed and produced in Frederick, Maryland by Lee Cumberland. Ads are read by us, the hosts, and occasionally by 59 North's bosun Adam Brown and podcast producer Lee Cumberland. Episode artwork and website show notes are done by Laura Parent in San Francisco. The intro theme music is composed and performed by former podcast guest and musician Cameron Dale, while the outro music you're hearing now is, of course, by our friends, the Stormweather Shanty Choir. We love hearing from our fans, so send your questions and comments to holdfast@59-north.com, and please do us a favor and review the show on iTunes or wherever else you get your podcasts. Until next time, hold fast.
I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. As I was walking down the street, I met sweet Angeline. She said, come home with me, me lad, and we'll have a cracking time. But when I awoke, it was no joke. I found I was all alone. My silver watch and my money too, and my whole bloody gear was gone. Was gone, was gone. My whole bloody gear was gone. It was when I awoke, it was no joke, for my whole bloody gear was gone. As I was walking down the street, I met Big Rapper Brown. I asked him if he would take me in, and he looked at me with a frown. He said,
last time you was paid up with me, you took up no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more.
once more, to go to sea once more. I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Sometimes we're catching whales, me lads, but mostly we get none. With a 20-foot oar in every paw from 5 o'clock in the morn. And when daylight's gone and the night's coming on, we rest upon our oars. And oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Ashore, ashore, or snug with the girls ashore. Oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Come all you seafaring lads that listen to me song. When you go a big boating, boys, make sure you do not go wrong. You take my tip when you come off a trip, don't go with any whores. But get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed, and go to sea no more.